Story number 1. It was 2:34 a.m. on Highway 98, a desolate stretch of road where no other vehicles had been seen for nearly 40 kilometers. The sky was overcast, the moon hidden behind thick clouds, and the streetlights had long since fallen into disrepair. Amon was driving his truck, the only companion being an old tape recorder on the passenger seat. He transported goods to small towns, but tonight's journey felt different. Suddenly, a hazy light appeared ahead. Emerging from the fog was a woman dressed in a white sari, her face lowered, standing directly in the middle of the road. Amon attempted to brake, but the brakes failed. Just as the truck was about to hit her, she vanished into thin air. His heart pounding, Amon turned on the radio, tuning it to 98.1 FM. Instead of music, he heard a whisper. "You know who I am. I'm sitting right behind you." Panicked, Amon shut off the radio. Glancing into the rearview mirror, he saw the same woman seated in the back seat. Suddenly, scratching noises came from the window. Turning to his right, he saw another face, bloodied with eyes melted away. At that moment, the truck's engine died. Everything fell silent. Then, footsteps approached. From the left, 3 figures emerged, dressed in decaying, blood-stained uniforms resembling old police constables. One of them knocked on the door. "This vehicle won't leave our territory." Amon tried to lock the door, only to realize it was already open. He leaped out and ran towards an abandoned tea stall by the roadside, seeking refuge. Inside, he discovered the stall wasn't empty. The same woman he had seen earlier was sitting there. Her face lifted, revealing a void where her features should have been. In a hollow voice, she said, "You've taken the wrong road. There's no turning back now." Suddenly, his truck started on its own. The headlights turned on, and the horn honked 3 times. "They're here to take you," the woman said. Amon rushed towards the truck, but on the back door, a message was scrawled. "This journey is one way. There's no return." He glanced into the window one last time. His reflection was absent. Instead, he saw a driver with a charred face, burnt flesh hanging. The figure turned and smiled. Amon was never seen again. His truck was found near the 13-kilometer marker on Highway 98, engine running, but empty. Only the old tape recorder remained on the front seat, playing the final message. Z94. "You know who I am. I'm sitting right behind you." Story number 2. The wind howled through the cracked window of Paul Meyer's semi-truck as he coasted down Interstate 77 in West Virginia, a stretch of road that locals whispered about, a route many truckers avoided after sundown. Known unofficially as Black Hollow Stretch, it had a history drenched in disappearances, ghost sightings, and unexplained accidents. But Paul, a hardened long hauler with 20 years behind the wheel, never believed in that stuff. That is, until that night. It was just past 2:13 a.m. when Paul's GPS glitched and rerouted him off the main road. At first, he figured it was just recalculating due to some traffic or construction up ahead. But when he looked around, there were no other vehicles on this detour. Just forest, thick and oppressive, pressing in from either side of the narrow highway. His headlights flickered for a moment as he passed an old, rusted road sign. It read, "Black Hollow, 5 miles. He scoffed. Cute name. But when he turned the corner into the hollow, everything changed. First came the fog, thick, white, and crawling like it had a mind of its own. It swept across the pavement, hiding everything more than 10 feet ahead. His brights barely pierced it. The forest grew darker, the trees taller, more twisted. Then his radio clicked on by itself. Static. Then a whisper. "You're not supposed to be here, Paul." He froze. Hands clenched the wheel. No one should have known his name. He slammed the radio off. Then came the woman. She stood in the middle of the road, pale as bone, hair soaked and draped across her face like seaweed. She wore a tattered white gown that floated as though underwater. Paul hit the brakes hard. The truck skidded, tires screaming. But just before hitting her, she vanished. Not stepped aside, vanished. Paul sat in stunned silence. Then came the knock. Not on the door. From the inside of the sleeper cab behind him. He turned slowly. No one should have been in there. He reached for his flashlight, hand shaking, and climbed back. The small space smelled suddenly of rot and damp earth. His bedding was torn, claw marks gouged into the walls. Then his flashlight died. In the pitch black, he heard a breath inches from his ear. "I died on this road, and so will you." The truck's horn suddenly blared, by itself, long and shrill, echoing into the woods. Lights on the dashboard flashed. Paul scrambled forward, slammed into gear, and floored it. He didn't care where he was going, just away. But the highway looped. No matter how long he drove, he passed the same burned-out gas station, the same twisted tree, the same rusted road sign, over and over. Black Hollow, 5 miles. The clock was stuck at 2:13 a.m. every single time. Then came the passengers. He saw them in his mirrors, sitting in the back seat of his cab, even though it had no seats. Dark shapes, pale faces, hollow eyes, watching him. One pressed its face against the side window. A child, skin gray, mouth sewn shut. He screamed. Paul finally stopped the truck in the middle of the road and jumped out, stumbling into the fog. That's when he saw it. The sign again. But this time it read, "You never left." And under it, Mile 0. He tried to walk, to run, but the fog only thickened. The forest closed in. Behind him, his truck vanished, not drove off, vanished. Like it had never been there. They say Paul Meyer's rig was found abandoned 3 days later, parked neatly on the side of the interstate. Engine cold. Doors locked. No sign of struggle. No sign of Paul. Only his logbook remained, turned to the last page. One sentence, scrawled in frantic ink. Black Hollow is a loop. You don't escape. You just become part of it. Story number 3. The storm had been building for hours when Robert Chon, a retired paramedic turned long-distance courier, found himself rerouted by his GPS to Highway 191, a stretch of road that few dared to speak about. Locals called it the Bleeding Mile. He hadn't intended to drive that route, but road closures forced him onto it. The system's monotone voice insistent, "Continue on US Route 191 for 31 miles. The road signs were rusted and shot through, trees overgrown like skeletal fingers reaching across the highway. The sky above churned black and purple. Robert lit a cigarette, cracked his window, and pushed on. That's when the rain began. It didn't fall, it slammed. Thick, heavy drops like stones against his windshield. Wipers screeched. The headlights barely cut through the curtain of water. Then something crossed the road. He slammed the brakes. A deer? No, not a deer. It was a woman, pale, wet, limp hair, her back turned, standing barefoot in the middle of the soaked asphalt. Robert cursed and leaned out his window. "Miss, you okay? You need a ride." She didn't turn. She lifted her arm slowly and pointed to the woods. Just beyond her finger, through the trees, a dim red light glowed. Against his better judgment, Robert stepped out of the car. He walked past her slowly. Her skin was cold as the mist. She whispered, barely audible over the rain, "Don't go. Don't wake them." But he was drawn to that light. As he crept into the forest, the noise of the storm faded. The trees absorbed it, swallowed sound. The light grew stronger, red, flickering. It was a house, a small wooden cabin. No driveway, no path, no reason to be there. He stepped up to the porch, drawn like a moth to flame. Inside, someone was moving. He opened the door. The scent of mildew and blood hit him instantly. Candles burned, wax melted down to puddles. On the floor, dozens of dolls, handmade, faceless, stood in perfect rows. In the center of the room, a man was sitting with his back to Robert, rocking in a chair, humming. Then the man stopped. Slowly, his head turned. Not just turned, but cracked, as if the neck had never worked properly. "You came too early," he rasped. Robert backed away. Then he saw it on the far wall. Dozens of photos, grainy, black and white, each one of a car, different makes, different models, all wrecked, crushed, mangled, but each one was on the same stretch of road. Highway 191. and in the foreground of each photo was the woman. Same face, same wet dress, dead center. Robert ran. Through the woods, through the rain, back to his car. But the car was gone. In its place stood the woman again. This time her eyes were hollow, black voids. She mouthed a word he couldn't hear. Then the trees around him changed. They weren't trees anymore. They were people. Dozens of them. All pale. Still. Watching. The woman stepped closer. You stopped. That's all it takes. The highway had vanished. Only woods. Only fog. They found Robert Chan's vehicle the next day. Still idling. Door wide open. Hazard lights blinking. Inside, his phone played a video on repeat. It showed the dashcam feed. From 2:09 to 2:13 a.m., it played footage of Robert driving. And then stopping for the woman. Then static. Then, the footage rewound and played again. And again. And again. Like the road never let go. Story number 4. The last fuel station was 80 miles behind when Anthony Griggs, an overnight long-haul driver, realized his GPS was no longer updating. Highway 58, a rarely used bypass through the desert hills of Arizona, was empty except for the occasional bleached roadkill and rusted-out car shells sitting half-buried in sand. It was supposed to be a shortcut. The dispatcher called it, "The shortcut devil forgot." Most truckers ignored it. But Anthony was running late and decided to risk it. His CB radio had gone silent. No music, no signal. Only a low hum, like a breathing wall behind the static. His truck's lights illuminated cracked pavement, broken mile markers, and a sign that read, "You've entered mile 0, turn back." Anthony blinked. The next sign came 2 minutes later. Mile 0, turn back. Then again. 10 minutes. 15. Same sign. Same wording. Same bullet hole in the 0. He tried reversing. The truck wouldn't budge. Like the asphalt had gripped the wheels. Then, through the mirror, he saw headlights. Another vehicle? No. The lights were suspended in air. Then they blinked out. Something slammed against the passenger side of his cab. He whipped around. Nothing. Then a whisper crawled through the radio static. Mile 0. Mile 0. Welcome. Anthony hit the gas. The road began to change. Trees where there had been desert. Black bark. No leaves. Smoke rising from the ground like the earth was exhaling. He passed a wrecked van. Tires melted to the road. Windows blackened. Inside, shadows moved. He didn't stop. The sign returned again. Only this time it read, "Mile 0, you belong here." Then the screaming started. Not from outside. From under his rig. He stopped the truck and stepped out. Crawled beneath. Nothing. Then he stood and found himself in a different place. Daylight, but sunless. The highway was surrounded by silhouettes. Humanoid, unmoving, like shadows made of dust. They lined the sides of the road in perfect symmetry. Mouths open. No eyes. They began to whisper in unison. "Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us." Anthony ran back into the cab, slammed the door, floored the accelerator. The road stretched endlessly like a loop. Every time he passed a road sign, it repeated the same phrase. Mile 0 nowhere ends. Then the road rose, literally lifted like a spine arching. His truck tilted. He saw another truck ahead, abandoned and covered in sand. Lights blinking, engine dead. The side had been carved into with jagged letters. He drove past the mile. The road dipped violently. Anthony blacked out. He woke up in the driver's seat, daylight streaming in through the windshield. The truck was parked just off a suburban road outside Flagstaff. GPS showed no history of travel. Fuel tank full. His dashcam showed nothing. Black screen. Except for the last 30 seconds. Anthony staring into the camera, not moving. Then whispering, in his own voice, layered with dozens of others. "I never left mile 0.